Hello, everyone. Pleased to be back with you. And I am here today interviewing Trina Sette. Trina is the CEO and founder of Go for Goals Accountability Partner Services. Welcome, Trina. How nice to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
So, Trina, you're going to tell us about Go for Goals and Accountability Partner Services, but I, of course, want to talk to you about how you are a real life heroine and you've been on the heroine's journey. And just let me remind people that that means that person is going along kind of in ordinary life and receives some sort of a call or an impulse or an urge to do something, to kind of leap out of their ordinary life. We call it a leap because usually it's a big jump, a big change, and start on a what we call in the journey an adventure, going into the unknown, something they haven't done before. And then on that journey, they have hiccups and challenges and things that might not always go smoothly. And then they have people help them and encourage them, and all kinds of things can happen. But the journey is so much about developing you and growing you into a more realized person. And Trina, I happen to know that this has been the case for you. So I wonder if first we could just start, what was your ordinary life before you became CEO and founder of Go for Goals?
Wow. It's not often that I get to sit and go back in time and connect the dots as to where things were, but I can tell you that 3 years ago, I was a single mom, and when I was 40, I married the one that got away, and I was very excited. It was he was the love of my life. He was absolutely, I was smitten. My heart raced every time I saw him. I lived with him and my daughter, who's now 30. So at the time she was 21. And she ended up getting pregnant at 25, and we moved in with her and her boyfriend, the baby's father. And so we kind of had this little family unit. But I was working for Jenny Craig. I absolutely loved my job. I was a consultant, a weight loss consultant. I worked at their home office. I had 30 clients a day,
Wow.
and I didn't go on vacation. I went to work. Like I loved my clients. This was a huge thing for me. And slowly, and a lot of you will probably relate to this, you realize that the person that you're married to has a drinking problem.
I was
And
one of those people
yeah,
previously. Yeah.
yeah, at first he was so much fun and so much fun, and he wasn't abusive in the way like a physical abuse. He was only 5'6" and 135 pounds, so I didn't really have a fear of him. However, when he would drink, he would do extremes. He would go from being just super fun and funny, and he was an amazing singer, and he would sing songs, and he would put my name in there in the song, so like it was singing to me, and my heart would go pitter patter. And then sometimes he would lose his top over why I bought spaghetti instead of angel hair pasta. It was silly little things, but he would just get so mad, and we would have these terrible fights where mostly I just went to bed and hid under the covers and pretended to be asleep. And that was my life, and that was my undercover life. Like,
Mm.
people didn't know. My closest friends knew, because our fun thing to do was, I used to smoke, and I would go over on my day off, and all three of my best friend, me and my two best friends, we would sit there and complain about our husbands and smoke cigarettes. And we would just be like, oh, and then he said this, and then he said that, and whatever. And basically that was my life. But at work, nobody knew about that. That was not something that I brought in. I had pictures of him and I all over my desk, and that was my life. And finally, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I said to him, actually, it was in December of 2015. So 5 years ago. Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. I haven't told this story in a while, obviously. I said to him one night, I said, Frank, you have to, I don't care if you drink, but I can't stay up all night with you. Can you drink earlier in the day so we can go to bed at 11 or 12? I was the only one working at the time, and I couldn't stay up all night with him. I said, if you can't do that, then I need you have to sleep in the other room so that I can sleep, because I have to be able to go to my job. And he took all of his stuff and went in the other room. He left. He left me in my own home. I did not see him for 6 weeks. He would sleep all day and then he would stay up all night while I was sleeping.
Let me just ask you, that must have taken a lot of courage to speak up to him, because you hadn't.
Yeah. I
So,
planned it out. I'm a communicator, and I'm like, if I say it in this way, you don't have to stop drinking. Can you just, instead of starting to, have a couple drinks at 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock, can you start maybe at 2 or 3 so that he's ready for bed at 11? Something like, or 12 even.
so you did
But
a lot of thinking about this before you actually, yeah.
I didn't want to lose him.
Hmm.
It just didn't occur to me when I basically made an ultimatum that he would leave. He promised he would never drink hard liquor again, because that made him a little nuts. So he'd been drinking a lot of beer. And so when I said that to him, he left and went to the store and came back with a big bottle of Fireball. And then I didn't see him.
Wow.
Yeah, he and bless his heart, he learned at a very young age. He has social anxiety disorder. If he had a couple drinks, then he was funny and he could be around people. But to this day, if he's sober, he doesn't talk to anybody.
Hmm.
Like he wouldn't come out of the room. If he went out and my daughter's boyfriend was in the kitchen, he'd turn around and come right back in, and he'd say, "Why is he always in the kitchen?" Because
No,
he couldn't. He
couldn't deal
couldn't.
with it. Right.
Yep. And so
So,
when I said, don't do that,
so he's no longer in your life?
no, we're divorced now. We are divorced, the most amicable divorce ever. I'm like, I don't want it. You can have it. And he's like, no, you can have it. I don't want it. And he's like, we didn't have kids together. He had 4 and I had 1. So together we had 5, but they're all adults now. In fact, his youngest will be 21 next week. She'll be 21. So we're still friends. I still love him.
Hmm.
I just can't be married to him. I
Right.
can't.
So that was a huge leap in your life, a big change.
Yeah.
And that had been kind of ordinary life for you, kind of hiding this.
Yep.
So now you could be more of yourself.
Yes.
And so then how did accountability partners come about? How soon after that?
What's funny is that happened in December, and he wasn't bringing in any income, and so I had been doing a network marketing company called It Works, and I wasn't really doing that much with it. I just really loved the products, and I would tell people about it, and people would say, "Hey, do you have any wraps? Do you have any face masks?" And so I was making some money at it, but I was watching people around me that were getting like $10,000, $20,000 bonuses, and they were like military wives on the base. And it was just like, why? I could do this. I needed to get another job in addition to Jenny Craig. So what I made basically only paid the bills because he wasn't contributing, but I didn't have anything extra. So I was super stressed. I was always stressed. I was always worried. I depended on my daughter and her fiance to, pay a part of the rent, but they were in retail and they always seemed to, and they were millennials and, the kind that are in the dictionary under millennials, like my coach is a millennial and he's amazing. My daughter and her fiance were on the other side of that, where they were extreme in their emotions and stuff. And so I was worried. I was
Yeah.
worried, stressed all the time. And so I decided I am going to learn this network marketing thing once and for all, and I am going to crush it. So that was my decision that I made. And I went on YouTube and I was sitting on my bed. I remember this so clearly. I'm sitting on my bed and I'm watching a training video on YouTube on how to grow your team. And it ended and I was still writing the notes, and all of a sudden I heard a familiar voice. And I look up and I'm like, oh, it's that guy from The Secret, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, Jack Canfield. He was on the YouTube video that immediately following that training. And he was talking about how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And I'm like, I want to be rich. I want to have no financial worries whatsoever. So long story short, I started watching his video. I went to my computer to download some worksheets that he had on his website that was free. And he had a work with Jack for 10 days, free coaching. And so I signed up for it, and he basically sends you a video every day, a little 5-minute video, and then some homework to do. And so I signed up for it, and the first thing it said was, make a list of what you want your life to be like. And then on day 2, he has something called take 100% responsibility. And I'm like, you don't know my story, Jack. That might be great for all of them, but you don't know me. Like, I don't even drink. Like, I take care of everybody. I clean the house. I do the dishes. I take the trash out to the
You're
curb.
very responsible. You are
Very responsible. I work a full-time job. It's not me. How dare you say take 100% percent responsibility, Jack? I was so annoyed. So I get the worksheet out and I'm like, fine, I'm going to do your worksheet just to prove to you so that you know that I'm not responsible. This is not my fault. So I start doing the worksheet, and all of a sudden I compare it to a balloon, not a balloon popping, but when it has a leak, it goes whoosh, right? So I was walking around like this, and all of a sudden I went whoosh, and it was the most peaceful feeling, the most relaxed I had been. It was such. So here's the thing. I met my husband at a bar. He was drunk when I met him. I married him because he was cute, he was funny, and he sang like Randy Travis. I did not marry Frank because he was financially responsible, because he could take care of me, because he'd always be there for me. That was not in his lane. That was not something that he ever did. He liked to drink and he liked to sing, but he never really pursued it. Like he did have somebody from Hollywood try to get him to go do this, but he was a Pisces, he's a dreamer, and he just wasn't his thing.
So you chose him.
I chose him.
Yeah, you were responsible, right?
I was, and I knew because I had known him for 10 years before I married him. We were friends. And we had dated for like a month, but I knew that Frank really liked to stay at home and be alone and on his days off. He didn't like to go out. I knew that he didn't really like working very much. He was very minimal, and as long as he had money for, very few things. He never went on vacations. He didn't take trips or anything. But when we got married, those are things that I like to do. So I started taking him out and doing those things. And as long as it was just him and me, it was fine. But anytime there was other people involved, he retreated unless he was drinking.
Right.
Right. And so I realized, and it's so empowering, and that's the thing, is people, like, you don't want to take responsibility because you want to blame other people, but what you don't know, you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders when you take responsibility. And what actually happens is, inside you, when you take responsibility, your body is like, you're okay. And it's like, you're going to be fine. And you're able to release that weight, which you think it's going to pile on more. Jack, I'm not responsible. It is not my fault. But what actually happens is, oh my God, I chose this. I have a choice. And once you realize you have a choice, to stay or to go or to, quit that job or find another job or, make decisions. When you realize you have a choice to make decisions, it's empowering.
Right. Well, the
It's,
power you had to choose him gave you
yes,
the power to make another decision that would be
yes,
more beneficial to you. Yeah.
yes. And my girlfriends and my family, everybody was, when we were separating and gonna divorce, people were like, my best friend, she's like, you love him so much. You're not even crying. She's like, there's something wrong with you. She thought I was like in a cult, in a Jack Canfield cult, she literally used that word. And I thought about it and I'm like, I've been crying for 5 years about how unhappy I am. I'm like, I'm literally happy. I want the best for him. I just don't want to be married to him anymore. In a perfect world, he would be different, but he's not.
Yeah. So
So
what
we'll
you're
just,
telling us is doing that worksheet. And so let me also say, you were looking at how to do an online business. It just happened that Jack's video came up next. You weren't even looking for Jack, but there he was. He tells you about this. As you're doing his worksheet, you get this big mindset change about how you could live your life differently. And that kicked you off into what? Then
that
what?
that kicked me off into wanting. So here's the thing. It changed my life so much that I heard that Jack was going to be coming to San Diego or to Anaheim, and he was going to be doing a 1 day to greatness where you get to go and sit with him, all day and do his work. And I wanted to say thank you because he changed my life. And so I went there, not so much to do the work, but because I wanted to meet him and I wanted to tell him. I didn't know if I would have that opportunity because he was a big celebrity guy, but I really wanted to go. And once I got in the room and I got around people that were all feeling the same way and it had very similar experiences. I mean, there was 700-800 people in the room. I went up to him on a break and I stood in line and I told him very quickly my little story that I just told you. And he smiled and gave me a hug and took a picture. And the break was over and he went up on stage and he said, so this woman came up to me on the break, blah, 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 blah. I met him at a bar, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God. But he didn't call me out, but he basically used my story, and then that made a connection. And from there, I took his online training course, his breakthrough, or not, it's called the Success Principles online training. I became a certified trainer. And a year later, I went to his 5-day Breakthrough to Success event. And while I was there, he said, I want you guys to do these exercises and get an accountability partner. And he just described what it was. And so I got one. And then when I left there, I'm like, I need to do this more. And he had a live training program where you got to work with Jack for 14 days. So that was starting in another 6 weeks. So I joined that live program, which was a $15,000 program, and spent 7 days with him in July and 7 days with him in November. So at these events, um, there's 50 people in the room. Half the people sit in the back and they never talk. The other half sit in the front. And out of those 20, 25, only 10 people raise their hands, and 3 people raise their hands every 5 minutes. And I was one of those people. So I
Why
got,
does that not surprise me?
right? So and Jack loves it. Jack loves to process people. He loves to do laser coaching. He kind of uses you as an example in front of the whole room. And these were like game-changing personal development things. So I thought that Jenny Craig would hire me to go and train all of the consultants in their company these principles. So that was my goal. I'm like, I get to travel and I can teach all this stuff, because now I didn't want network marketing. I wanted it for everyone. I wanted to tell everyone how to do this. And so when Jenny Craig wasn't decided, that was not their direction they were going in. They were actually selling the company. I was laying there one night going, what am I going to do with all of this information? And I thought, oh, I should do a documentary and call it Confessions of a Weight Loss Consultant, because I had gained 30 pounds and I'm on the phone and clients don't know that I've put this weight on. You know, I did lose weight with Jenny Craig, so I was one of them. So it turns out Jack wants to do this documentary with me. And so I had to raise some money to get it made. And I hadn't raised the money 3 months later. So I wrote him an email and I attached to it a story of my journey, how, you know, basically the longer version of what we're talking about here. And I said, by the way, I wrote a little story about you, or a story about my journey. You might want to read it. It's kind of about you. And I emailed it to him. And I woke up the next day with an email from Jack saying, Trina, he goes, two things. Number one, I could not put this down. You're funny. It's a joy to read. I can't wait to see what the next part is. I would like to, with your permission, help you get this published and get it out there. It's a testimony to the work and what we do. If you would be willing to do that. The second thing is I want to put it in my book, Living the Success Principles too. And
Wow.
so he had gone in and taken my story and Reader's Digest, what's that called? I can't think of the word. Condensed. He condensed it down into a story called My Breakthroughs to Success or something like that. And that book, now, so, okay, this was 2 years ago. So I'm jumping up and down on my bed and I think, oh my God, I can't believe this is going to happen. And, you know, so of course, Jack, I would love to do this with you. Very calmly write him this email. And so just a quick note out there, it's happening. It's like in the process of happening, like he edited the book, the final edit, like 2 months ago. So it's a long process. Just because someone says it's like, yeah, right, that's right. One of the big lessons.
Yeah, and let me just say, so, you know, just to note, you are on this journey. You have this amazing mindset change and start out and not knowing, you know, what's going to happen, but you're going, following your intuition, going to Jack's classes and, you know, thinking Jenny Craig's the way, right?
Yeah.
And then that falls through and a heroine keeps going. And there you were thinking, what can I do? And you put your story out there and there's Jack to pick it up. So, wow.
And then it goes to, for the documentary, Jack wants a camera on me and he wants a camera on my coach for the documentary, how we're talking about weight loss and like this whole thing that we're going to do, right? And so I need a coach. And so I'm part of the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Network, and I'm friends with Jake Valentine. I was one of the first probably 500 people in there. I didn't talk to anybody.
You know, he's my coach too.
Jake, yes,
yeah.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, Jake Valentine's amazing.
Amazing.
So I reached out to Jake. We were already friends. We'd already had many conversations, and I said, "Hey, I need a coach," and he said yes. And on our first call, he says to me, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I have this book and I'm making this documentary. Like, what do you mean?" He goes, "But besides that, what do you want to do?" So I jokingly said, "I should just be a professional accountability partner, because everyone in the Train the Trainer group is like, Trina, will you be my partner?" But it would be a full-time job. Like I can't, I have a full-time job. But I jokingly said to him, and it was like, mic drop. Jake goes, "Trina." He goes, "You should." And I'm like, I don't have a website. You know, I don't want to, that's not. And he's like, "Trina, what do you think you've been doing for the last 8 years at Jenny Craig?" I'm like, I'm a top sales consultant, top weight loss consultant. I'm calling 30 people a day every week. I'm calling them, checking them in, being encouraging and inspiring and helping them stay on track. And he's like, "The universe completely lined you up for this moment right here." And I'm like, oh my God. And I said, "Just give me a minute." And the next day I put out a post saying, "Hey, I'm starting an accountability partner business and I need some test subjects." So It's free, but who would like me to be their accountability partner? And I had a bunch of people sign up and do it. And I did it for free for probably 6-7 weeks. I was doing it for, just, oh my gosh, trying to get the system down exactly like how to do it.
Mhm.
Because as an accountability partner, it's a 5-minute call, 2.5 minutes for you and 2.5 minutes for your partner. But as a professional accountability partner, the calls are only 2.5 minutes because I'm only checking in with you, Susanna.
Right.
It's not back and forth. And that way, the problem with most accountability partners is that you become friends.
Yeah.
And then you start talking about dinner.
Yeah.
Too much talking, the calls go too long, and then you stop answering. The great thing is you have a new friend. The
Right.
terrible thing is you have no accountability at all anymore.
And this happens daily. The calls happen.
Yeah, I do it Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off. We do a strategy session at first just to figure out what your goals are, and then you do 5 things a day. 5 things a day to achieve your goal. And it could be as easy as wake up and write in your gratitude journal, say your affirmations, do a meditation, and spend, 30 minutes researching your book, and five, you know, I was gonna say 5 hours because when we start writing, it's hard to stop. But the client sets their goals. You're the expert on you. The only thing I do is if you're not achieving them, we make it smaller. Make it smaller, so don't drink 8 glasses of water if you're only drinking coffee and Diet Coke. Let's do 1 glass of water before our call tomorrow.
Right. Great.
And so I chunk it down. And so then it went from there to I came up with a deal. If you don't have to put your credit card in, and we'll do it after a free week if you want to continue. It's $99 a month. And then but if you sign up today, I'll give you an extra week. So you get 6 weeks for $99. So I started building this company for me.
And you were doing it all by
I
yourself.
was doing it all. I was doing it all. I actually hired a couple of people and I kind of split it with them because I was working at Jenny Craig, and it was like, you make the calls, I'll get you the clients. And then at some point, what happened was people were asking me if they could come work for me. But I mean, it's not enough money. It's only $99 a month. It's like I don't have enough money to pay employees. I can't pay you $10 an hour or $15 an hour. I couldn't compute it. And then I had the opportunity to speak at a event, and there were another speaker at the Speakers, Authors, and Coaches Summit last year. I got to speak and talk to people about accountability partners. I had 19 clients at the time that paid $99 a month. So I was making $1,900 a month, plus working at Jenny Craig.
Right.
And so what happened was one of the other speakers and I started having a conversation about me teaching people how to become professional accountability partners. He goes, you just create an online course. And I'm like, well, how much is that? And he said, well, it's going to cost like, $10,000 for this. And, because he was a big marketing guy that does all this crazy stuff. And I said, I'm like, I just don't have the money to do it. But in my mind, I thought that would be a great next step. And like a month later, he says to me, you know what you do? You don't have to pay for this. He said, you sign people up in your beta program and they get to come in at a lower price, but you'll still train them and do this, but you can record it for your training. And you know what? Last year I signed up 32 partners in my company. And so now I don't make the calls. I have people that I've trained and do the marketing for, and I give them a website, and they're the ones that are making the calls. And all I do is go out and tell people about accountability, which is what I want to do. And then now I'm giving all these other people a way to earn income while they're going through their coaching program or whatever it is.
That
Yep.
is awesome, Trina. And I know people are listening to this and you come across as so accessible that they must be thinking, wow, look at how these ideas occurred to her, and wow, maybe I could do it too,
Yes, you can. And it's called inspired action. It's like, I have a thought and I did it. I had a thought and I did it. I had a thought and I did it.
Right.
Did everything work out? Here's the thing. It's 2 years later. My book is still not out. The documentary with Jack is still not done. I mean, we need, a couple $100,000 to get the documentary made. Um, and it was just a phone. I called Jake because I needed somebody to be in the movie with me. And now here we are. And I have this amazing company and I'm helping other people achieve their dreams. And it's Kyle Cease. He's an amazing motivational speaker. He's a comedian. He says, create a win-win-win. It's a win for you, so you have abundance and love and light in your life. It's a win for your clients or partners because now they're creating this in their life or they're accomplishing their goals because most people do not have someone saying, you're doing a good job,
Right.
good for you.
Right.
And just having that daily call, to keep people are mind blown. They're like, I can't believe all the stuff that I've done just because you're checking in on. And nobody gets in trouble. There's no blaming and complaining allowed on. It's just a 2-minute call.
Right.
This is not a coaching call. This is a
Right.
2-minute call. Hey,
Right.
how'd you do? Awesome. Good for you.
Mm.
Because of that, it's the ripple effect. Now the people in their lives are feeling because their significant person in their life is achieving their goals and their dream, and then they start doing it, so it's a win-win-win.
Right.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So this is an amazing story.
Thanks.
And really what we'd be saying now is you've come through a major heroine's journey, coming up with this, your creativity, and now you're sharing it with the world. And
Yes.
not only giving them this as a tool, but who knows what they'll come up with because they've heard your story.
Yeah.
So, wow. That's
Yes.
awesome, Trina. Thank you very much for sharing it. So you're going to let people know when the book comes out. I'm going to be giving them your information. The
Yes.
best way for them to get in touch with you is how?
The best way for them to get in touch with me, it's depending on we can put the website on the information when you post this or launch
Right.
this. It's Go for Goals AP for accountability partner, goforgoalsap.com. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, to all the real life heroines that are listening to this, any last message you want to leave them with?
Yeah. I want to say to those of you watching and listening that you can do anything. You are in charge of your life. You get to decide what you think, the images that you have in your head, and the actions that you take. And if you have a thought right there, that thought is your sign. You don't need to wait for a flock of doves to fly over in a V formation for a sign. If you, I think it's Henry Ford that says, if you believe it, you can achieve it. If you have the thought, that's the sign.
Okay.
So I just had a thought. I never, ever would have thought 3 years ago.
I know. What a story. What an amazing story. That moment you realized you were doing that worksheet and you realized I made that choice to choose him and I can make a different choice.
Yes.
So Trina, thank you so very much for doing this with me. It's very inspiring to hear you, and I know other people will be inspired as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. Anytime.
Okay. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.